All paths lead to conflict. Through conflict, one's nature is revealed.
This video is made for outsiders to the game of Dota or slightly new players to explain the difficulties encountered playing Dota. I joined Dota 4 years ago, and it was for one real reason. I wanted to finally stop saying Dota was too hard for me. Dota has a reputation for two things: difficulty and toxicity. I want to explain how those two traits intermingle and what it's like to achieve competence in the game. Why is everyone so toxic? It's because everyone wants to be better at this game, desperately. It's almost endearing. The average Dota player is pouring their heart into this game just so that they could be the best they possibly can. Very few Dota players are casual about their interest in the game. Even the lowest ranks of all have some cutthroat level players who are stuck at the low rank because they're missing some fundamental skills. And very few players make guides for this game. It's hard enough to, with the sheer amount of information to take in. If I were to make you a guide right now on how to play 3 of my favorite heroes, I'd probably only do a good job on 2 of those, and then there's 126 total to pick from. There's too many intricacies, and nobody teaches you anything. So, a huge part of being tough playing this game, I found, was to have the desire to continue. If you want to improve, you have to have a reason to tough things out. Anyone who wants to get better can. That is lesson 1, I think. I mean, it's not groundbreaking advice, but I wasn't naturally gifted at Dota. I took my beatings. And there's many things in this game that just suck to lose to. So to explain, you're granted plenty of defenses and survival methods in this game. So in order to successfully beat someone and secure a kill, you have to fool them outright. I have thousands of times fallen for bait, cheap tricks, or lost to obscure game knowledge. And at first, this feels terrible. Feeling confident in the early part of the game when you're kind of okay at it, and then watching your screen turn gray during your death timer, man, like when I was in the early part of the game, getting just a little bit okay, picking my heroes carefully, and then losing, a sloppy death would make the blood rush away from my face. You know that feeling of embarrassment? And then you have to listen to some rated E for everyone voice line from a hero who killed you. But after that, you have to bounce back. You're out for a while, but then you're back. You have to go play. A lot of starting players will die once, and then they'll misbehave and lose the game and die again. And you just have to pretend it didn't happen. The enemy might laugh at you. The people who still need you will be angry sometimes, but you just got to jump back in and play the way it was intended. In the end, I've kind of learned to not be bothered by a progressive slow loss that I see coming. There are plenty of other things in life when you know the outcome and you just have to play it out. We're not kids. Most of us are like 30 playing this game. You just play it out. So why do we play this game? This is a bit of my own take, but it's because on some level or another, you're a nerd. Dota has an unparalleled perspective on fantasy RPGs. It's like they took the best of every single character design possible and threw it into the soup. Dota is about being the best at enjoying and consuming fantasy games. You log on to show people who enjoy wizards and archers and elves that you are better at enjoying wizards and archers than they are. And I'm going to prove it. Swear to God, that's actually what's happening. This is premium nerd fighting. The best feeling is to be the absolute best player in a lobby of 10 random players. It feels good. It goes to your head. You are king of the nerds. The hero you picked is better than everybody else's. You of course made the best choice. You get the idea. So anyway, who is playing Dota? Why do they hate you? Okay, so listen. It goes like this. On North America, the English speakers just hate the Spanish speakers. They also insult Peruvians, but most English speakers probably can't tell the exact difference between Portuguese and Spanish when they see it. And the rest of South America hates to see Peru as well. I had a guy. I had a guy explain all the ways that South Americans hate on each other, and I'm not going to explain it to you, but to give you an idea, it's very on the nose, and it's not that clever. I had this one guy in a game called Unupgraded Boots of Speed, Peruvian Browns, and that has stuck with me forever. In Europe, they hate Russians, who hate them back, and then Russians somehow end up on the North American servers. Don't know how. And I don't know a thing about Southeast Asia, but the Chinese hate the Filipinos, who sometimes hate the small amount of Indians playing. And
You remind me of me. I hate you most of all.
so during your climb of improving at the game, when you're in the lower 50% of ranked players, you're going to see more racism because players are not focusing on the game. They're genuinely practicing their insults more than gameplay. I learned bits and pieces of Spanish insults. I learned basura is trash, puta is bitch. I actually didn't know basura meant trash or idiot for ages, and I thought it was part of sentence structure, funny enough. I was probably better off that way. I've had people like look at my Steam profile, quote random stuff about me and my game history at me, and I'm like, okay, that's public info. Anything to get at you. These people are idiots. Actually, I'm an idiot for signing up to play with them. What's it like after playing for a few years? Insults bounce off of you, for sure. I am not nearly bothered about being insulted as I was when I started playing. But that wasn't at the start. I used to argue a lot with whoever was hating on me. But then I stopped when I got some confidence in my gameplay. There's a thing about winning a Dota game where you win in a way where it can't be taken away from you. It's not connected to vulnerable sectors in your head. The scoreboard speaks so loudly for itself, and the game took like 40 or 50 minutes, and somebody bantering away at you after a game, they're just looking for something new to do with their hands. That's how it felt. I know from not caring about what people I beat said anymore, because they'll try to leverage random facts to make you look bad. Doesn't matter though. And from losing games and having nothing constructive to do with, the remaining of my time. You can keep talking, but it doesn't matter. So what happened to me is I learned to put more weight on facts. Words are cheap distractions, but that's not to say this makes you humble. Winning still goes right to your head and makes you feel a lot better. A well-earned win just puts you above insults. So let me quickly explain the flow of a Dota game. Both teams start at parity, but around 10 minutes in, it becomes apparent that one team has gained more of an advantage than the other. But that's okay, because in most cases, one team is getting beaten because they have a long-term game plan that's not at full power yet. So most Dota has this feeling of fighting tooth and nail to either maintain a noticeable yet fragile advantage, or to come back from increasingly terrible odds. All games have this feeling as a baseline. Sometimes the game is tight as hell and both teams are evenly matched, but more common, one team needs to end the game before the other team can assemble their super weapon. That's enough talk about strategy to get you there. Some methods of communication in this game, they just lend themselves poorly to this strategy. Direct criticism, for one. If it's not heavily distracting, it makes people act badly towards you. And in the complete opposite scenario, being super nice with your team can also backfire if you aren't directing the game. Early in my Dota adventure, I decided to be super nice and try shooting the shit about other things than the game just to not act like a typical player before I really felt like I was part of the community. And that team, we all just got really comfy, really complacent, and then slaughtered because everyone was too distracted. So there's that. Time and place for everything. The thing I really accepted about communication, thanks to Dota, is that your direct statements do not control other people. While you can badger someone continually if you want to, it's a little better to state things and let other people process things. From what I've learned, not everyone notices everything. For some reason, people don't really like to repeat themselves either. I no longer understand why. Repeating yourself is utilitarian. I mean this outside of gaming as well. Okay, so here's a couple fun stories. One time I was playing with a friend of mine, and he would play support really well. He's very good at the game, and he knows a handful of languages. So one time we got paired up with a team of 3 Filipinos. I couldn't identify it, but then he said, "Oh, I speak their language. Let me communicate with these guys." So he spoke Tagalog in a Mexican accent for a couple seconds at these guys, and they all raged. And they threw the game faster than I could even imagine, and all started just losing the game as rapidly as possible because they were mad at my friend for speaking to them. It was crazy stuff. Another time, I had this guy. He was playing a character named Bristleback. If you don't know, he's very tanky, and the skill involved in him is knowing the limits of how much damage you could take. So this one guy knew nothing, and he kept feeding kills, and I was having a good game, and I just needed him to stop dying. So every death, I would point something out to him. I'd say, "You could do this trick next time." I'd say, "I need more time to so I can carry the game." Or I'd say, "Think about going somewhere else on the map," and he ignored all of this, no response. And then finally, like I was just watching this game that I was doing really well go to the can, so I called him a slur, and he went, "What? What did I do? What did I do?" And it was the only thing that got his attention. This exact match broke my reluctance to not say really bad words. Thank you, Dota. So on the topic of bad words, like top 5 worst words, you don't see them often in Dota, but it happens just enough that you let your guard down and it pops up again and shocks you one more time. For some reason, it's actually when someone's winning. I don't understand these people at all. Like, they're quiet all game. I guess they're playing to win. And then they celebrate by dropping a hard slur. I don't get it myself, but that's the Dota we play. Yes. Sadly, not a lot of Dota players are good communicators or know what good communication even looks like. I see this as a sad thing because it means few Dota players actually have anyone to play with. It's a fighting the world kind of game. There's a very common scam that I've seen work on multiple players on my Steam's friend list, and it's simply, "Hey, we need a 5th player right away for a little tournament. Click the link." And they get hacked because they want to play with a team. It's sad stuff. So, playing Dota, you have to be okay with being called dumb, or a griefer, or being called annoying. And the thing is, people say it because that's how they're already feeling. The game's going bad, and you say something, and you get called annoying. It's whatever. Just realize how often people blurt out what they feel, and you'll be better off. Also, the game knows how toxic and angry it gets and makes people, and there are multiple like cosmetic voice lines, sprays you can put on the map, and things like that are like intended to make people angry, because like that's just how the game is. Like, everyone knows this. The developers know this. The fans know this. This game pisses you off. And getting over being pissed off is integral to the game. Like, if you get defeated, you just have to sit there and chew on it. It's okay. It's necessary to keep enjoying the game because you inflict the same thing on others when you beat them. So, like, this, you can really make this game yours as well. Like a major point, you could manipulate the meta of this game when you want to. At any time, you could adjust your build to be completely unheard of, and it can work. And like, news of new builds travels fast. Like, you see the thing that like you discovered or you saw on a pro game, and you see it the next day level fast, because players only talk about what works. If it worked, it's copied. However, to really do anything custom in Dota, you got to be like brilliant or like onto something once in a blue moon. But then here's the thing: if you want to play this game to its utmost and the creative aspect of this game, you have to be able to sustain heavy amounts of criticism. Even if your plan isn't meant to be ostentatious, your totally new allies in the lobby you just joined are going to act ostentatious when the time comes to blame someone for in-game problems. But I learned to go up to bat for what I'm doing. You can either learn ways to deflect blame that are like part of the community's lingo. You could say stuff like "space created" or "just wait, we will scale." You could also swear at them. I've used both. Sometimes it's, Dota after a work day, like I was nice all day. What do you want, man? I'm sitting here in my boxers. I sometimes think of Dota players as other cars in a traffic jam. Like, we can all optimize for a slight improvement to our miserable experience. Or we could do nothing and make it kind of meh. Or we can actively stress each other out. Now, we also wouldn't do all of these things in person. That's my allegory. I had a friend who was a first responder, and he told me that road rage is caused by hardened heart rate and alertness inherent to like driving fast. And it's sort of the same with Dota. You're piloting a mechanically difficult character who needs some fairly predictable yet precise movements in order to function properly. And certain blunders will crash everything. And you have to pay attention to some people who are doing pretty similar things to you, who you don't really know oftentimes, just in case their plans collide with where you are. When another team is barking mad at you in chat, it's sort of like that, but it's in Spanish half the time. The thing about Dota is that there's a lot of brainy people playing it. Either grown-ups who grew up with the game, have educations, lives, etc., or promising younger types who, similarly to myself, they're like, oh, difficult video game, I'm going to try to be the best at like a hard game. So what my point is, these smart people are going to get pissed off at you and use their brains for evil. Now, Dota has typing and voice chat, which is rare in this genre of game. So many times I've dealt with people who are persistent and smart and want revenge on someone they're mad at. Yelling alleviates stress, as you might know, but then, in my opinion, if you don't want to get ridiculed, you don't want to lend the thread of logic to someone's bark of anger. It just, responding shows someone that you have a pulse and ears, and it lets them tear apart what you said. So, hey, like, maybe you might enjoy arguing back because you're a Dota player and that's what we do, but it doesn't help the other three guys on the team. Also, some people are just here to make people suffer. Ironically, it's often the support players. You would think someone picks a support to help other people and make people feel good, but in Dota, it's different, because when I say support, I barely ever mean healer. Healers are a rarity in this game. I think less than 10% of the cast can heal other characters. Supports in Dota make people suffer. I've been told by numerous support players, by their own admission, that making someone suffer is the biggest appeal of the game. They choose their character carefully to make someone upset, or essentially turn off their controls and ability to play the game. I'm going to be honest, being the deliverer of a chain stun is funny. So you got one guy on your team and the other team who wants to do that as their job. But God help you, these people do not care who is on their team. Let's say you're a carry player. You need the team's help to get a lot of money, but then you're powerful when you were set up. That's the idea. And then 2 minutes into the game, you make a suggestion in a monotone voice to your support. Or God help you if either you didn't fight when they wanted to and the support goes all in, or you sound vaguely annoyed for any possible reason. This guy is now going to remember this exact moment for the next 40 minutes. In many cases, he will abandon you, or he'll become highly passive-aggressive, take everything you say literally, because you've now become like an idol, like a target, a tangible thing. You are now a representation for the boss they hate at work, or something. I don't enjoy psychoanalyzing the actually psychotic people I come across. Dedicated support players are picking support for the fantasy of something like, ooh, I might be weak, but don't mess with me. And the thing about fantasies is they beg for outlets. Don't become the outlet of rage for your team's repressed little weirdo. Okay, that's enough ragging on supports. Carries have their own variety of being insufferable. Unlike flexible and versatile support choices, anyone who matters in the late game is locked into a specific play pattern as soon as they pick what hero they are. So this makes carry angry speech more. It makes the abuse more on the nose. It's a get what you want kind of mean. Like they want to treat you like their order's wrong at a restaurant. And somehow you, who signed up to be a cool wizard, is being talked to like a waiter. So that's the vibe. But what I actually learned about these players is how to ignore who is whining when they're losing. There's a particular habit of players to type, "Good game, please end the game," to everybody in the lobby, to the enemy. They want you to go end the game since they've apparently given up. But this is how I sort of learned to not cater to poor losers, because the odds are they never really gave up. The way that Dota's like gold economy works, if you push the objective, you don't get gold very fast. So obeying the loser's pathetic request to attack their base while they hide in the forest and get money can dramatically backfire. And this type of prick is definitely not going to be honorable. He might even attack you himself after requesting you end the game for him. So it's a bit of not succumbing to the squeaky wheel. This is a real life thing I've developed. Thank you to Dota. I've personally won hundreds of games off of acting as if I'm in a losing position. So this is more like game strategy. The thing about like I said, one team is like losing for sure and they've got to adjust so that they can last to the late game, right? The thing about posturing, like pretending you're both equal teams, nobody could hear how straight your back is. Also, standing tall against a superior opponent gives your spine more surface area to break. So you take losses of resources on the chin and you be patient. It's more fun to beat someone when they get cocky anyway, so let them get cocky. There was a trend years ago for carry players to name their Steam profile PMA, or Positive Mental Attitude, and I was fascinated by that. Carry players were advertising that they were positive people, and it made me realize everyone's frustrated. Both sides of the carry support equation are frustrated. So I picked carry as my main role because of that. You gotta shoulder the emotional burden for someone else. The possible ways of griefing your team in Dota are endless. You could give gold to the enemy by dying. You could steal gold from important team members. You could give away key information through your actions. You could ruin setups. You could insist that people fight when it's a bad idea just because you're bored. You could block somebody's movement by standing in front of them so they die. I'm sure there's more creative ways to grief somebody. Actually, I know there is. I'm not going to go into it. And, this isn't specific to supports anymore. There's a lot of carries that act like they're God's gift to the world, and it's the same energy. He's factually correct, but the reaction he's expecting is that you fondle his balls for being correct instead of the pure exasperation that comes with, doing something terrible to somebody. Okay. One last topic. On the topic of facts, Dota has an appeal thanks to how exacting the numbers are. You learn how optimal ways to do things in a consistently rewarding manner. And many fights in the first 5 minutes of the game come down to key choices you made, like the inventory that you exactingly bought with your starting to start the game. I found that when I practiced with some of these games, when I practiced the more complicated heroes of the game, the more that I had to do, the more stuff I had to accomplish, the less stressed out I felt. Because thinking about all the tasks is painful, but doing nothing but executing the game plan feels much more like a flow state. Dota is built off of meaningful and quantifiable numbers as a baseline. That's why I like it. But at the same time, those elegant numbers spiral out of control as the game goes on. That's how the game gets complicated as it is. Most Dota players have wide knowledge of the game, but they could not tell you the exact math for gold per kill or respawn timer or the cost of a buyback, for example. Dota players love to act smart as hell, and many of them are. but at the same time, the infamous complexity of the game is a real thing. Only the very best players can tell you absolutely everything there is to know about the game, and they totally exist. I think Dota helped me further accept that there's always somebody smarter than you, because many smart players are happy to share the info they have. Because of hero selections, involved numbers like golden experience and item choices, there's very few ways in this game to replicate an exact scenario. Take two random teams of heroes and make them fight. There will be a number of interactions you've never seen before. And knowing things, knowing what happens makes things easier. But there's also times you just have to accept you didn't know things. It makes experience a very real life thing, in my opinion. We all claim to love video game systems. Oh, my character got experience. But in reality, gaining an experience can be a sharply painful thing. But still, you are literally better from knowing something than not.